Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 275 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by the main man himself. It is of course the former heavyweight world title challenger himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. How about you?
Not too bad, my friend. Not too bad. Always good when speaking with you. This show, it's going to be, again, kind of brief on my part, just like last week where Eddie did the majority of the speaking. There's going to be nothing to review at all, so no review part. There's quite a lot of news, but it's news that I'm guessing die-hard boxing fans would have already seen. Or, in fact, any type of boxing fan would have probably already seen on Twitter. It's the events that Eddie Hearn has announced, which... he's put on quite a brilliant schedule, actually. So we're all looking forward to that. That's going to be the news. Then there's going to be the preview part of the show. Then I'm going to bring in a guest. And then we're going to go into the Lockdown Knockdown, which, of course, will be the time that Eddie did eventually go down to Cruiserweight. We'll get onto that in due course. Starting with the news part, which is... something that I don't think we've probably ever done before. Starting straight away with the news. Eddie Hearn, he's announced a card on February 13th. That one takes place, not quite sure where, I don't believe. But anyway, I'm going to just run through these fights. We have Josh Warrington, 30-0. Not sure if he's defending his IBF world title or not. Not quite sure what's gone on there. He's boxing a guy who has just snuck into the rankings in 10th, I believe, with the IBF. A guy called Maurizio Lara, 21-2. Not the fight we wanted for Josh Warrington. We expected him to be taking on Can Xu. That isn't happening. On the undercard, we get to see Lee Wood, 23-2. In a 12-rounder there for the vacant British featherweight title. He takes on 13-0 Reese Mould. We also have Dalton Smith, 6-0 in a bit of a step-up really against Lee Appleyard, 16-5 with a draw. Zelfa Barrett, 24-1, takes on Kiko Martinez, former world champion, 41-9 with 2 draws. That one is for the IBF Intercontinental Super Featherweight title. And I believe on that card, Shannon Courtney, I think, is having a rematch with Rachel Bull. Could be wrong. But that's it for February the 13th. Moving now to the week after, February 20th. It's on again for like the 4th time or something like that. David Avanesian, 26-3 with a draw for the EBU European welterweight title over 12 rounds against Josh Kelly, 10-0 with a draw. On the undercard, Anthony Fowler, 13-1. He's in a 10-rounder against Jorge Fortea, who's 21-2 with a draw. All the best to Anthony Fowler in that one, of course. And Amy Timlin against Carly Skelly, 2 undefeated females putting their O's on the line for the vacant Commonwealth female Super-Bantamweight title over 10 2-minute rounds there. And also a brilliant fight as well. Florian Marcoux, 7-0 with a draw, takes on Rylan Charlton, who is 6-0 with a draw. Charlton, the guy that knocked out Joe Laws most recently. That's over 10 rounds there. That's February 20th. Moving out now to the 6th of March now. Alexander Povetkin against Dillian Whyte, the rematch on pay-per-view. Povetkin 36-2 with a draw. Dillian Whyte 27-2 over 12 rounds there. On the undercard, Fabio Wardley 10-0, the young undefeated heavyweight prospect under Dillian Whyte's management. He takes on Eric Molina. Could be interesting, depends on which version of Eric Molina turns up there. Yusuf Kamari as well, an undefeated prospect prospect, 11-0 with a draw. He takes on Kane Baker. That's a bit of a step up. Ted Cheeseman, 16-2 with a draw, takes on James Metcalf, 21-0. That one's for the vacant British super welterweight title. And Campbell Hatton, the son of Ricky, he's making his debut on that card there, March the 6th. Moving now to March the 20th, we have Lawrence Okoli, 15-0. He fights for the vacant WBO Cruiserweight world title against Poland's Krzysztof Glowacki, former holder of the belt. 31-2 is his record. It's over 12 rounds. Glowacki only ever lost at the top level. He's lost against Bradis and he's lost against Usyk, so he is a really good fighter, and that's a hard fight there for Lawrence Okoli, in my opinion. Chris Billum-Smith, 11-1 on the undercard against the undefeated 13-0 Dion Juma for the Commonwealth and British cruiserweight titles. Joe Caldina on the undercard, and also a brilliant women's fight here. Chantel Cameron, 13-0. I'm looking to try and get her on the podcast soon. She defends her WBC Super Lightweight Female World title against Melissa Hernandez, who's 23-7 with 3 draws. Melissa Hernandez, she was a world champion and stuff like that, and she took some years out of boxing. I think she took about 3 years out. She came back in 2019 and beat Selena Barrios. That's the sister of Mario Barrios, the current 140 world champion. She came back, beat her, took her and then she disappeared again, and she's going to be back because that was almost 2 years ago. So she takes on Chantel Cameron. Could be really interesting, that. And then going to the final one, which takes place on April the 10th, we have Conor Benn topping the bill. He puts his WBA Continental welterweight title on the line against Teak Tough Sammy Vargas, 31-6 with 2 draws. Real big step up there for Conor Benn. I know that Vargas's trainer, Bones Adams, friend of the show, is very excited for that one. Rachel Ball against Shannon Courtney. It's on that card there. I think the fight for Shannon Courtney that I mentioned earlier, I think that could be a bit of a keep busy kind of fight. Just one little run out before fighting Rachel Ball. It's for the vacant WBA female bantamweight title, the rematch there. Also, Savannah Marshall, 9-0. She's defending her WBO middleweight female world title. And yeah, there's a couple other prospects on the bill as well. Cash Farouk, John Hedges and Felix Cash, I believe, on that undercard. So Eddie Hearn has announced a brilliant schedule there. Looking forward to a lot of the fights mentioned. That is it for the news. Moving on now to the preview part. And then we're going to welcome a guest. The preview part, just one fight to mention. It takes place this Saturday, 2 days from now, at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, USA. It's going to be live on Showtime. On the undercard for the WBA Interim World Lightweight title, Rolando Romero, 12-0, takes on Justin Puldo, who's 14-1. Vic Pasilias as well. He is 16-0. He fights here for the WBA Interim World Super-Bantamweight title against Reese Aleem, who's 17-0. And the main event, we're going to be speaking to the man in just a matter of seconds, I guess. The defending champion for the WBO World Super-Bantamweight title, Angelo Leo. You'll be hearing from him in a few seconds. He takes on the undefeated Philly fighter, Stephen Fulton, 18-0 over 12 rounds there. Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. Really excited for that fight there. And that's it for the news part. That's it for the preview part, which was really brief. And now we're going to speak to the man involved in that main event. It's now time to welcome the first guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning WBO Super Bantamweight World Champion. It is, of course, Mr. Angelo Leo. Angelo, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Angelo. It truly is. So, first things first, you've got, obviously, your next fight coming up in a real short amount of time, but I want to talk about that night you became champion in your last fight back in August of last year. For those that don't know, you were supposed to be taking on Stephen Fulton on that night, of course. He was ruled out the fight with COVID. In stepped Tramaine Williams, a bit of a late replacement, a guy that was tipped for big things, a southpaw, a lot of hype surrounding Tramaine Williams. Over here in the UK, I actually think most people expected him to win, but you pulled it off. You deserve to win, of course. Tell us about that night from your perspective, Angelo.
Yeah. Tramaine Williams was a tough competitor. Southpaw, slick southpaw. Before the fight, they were comparing him a lot to Pernell Whitaker. And, I knew in my heart that I would beat him because of the conditioning I was, my preparation for the fight. And that night, I wasn't going to lose to anyone, and I was going to win that world title, regardless of who it was. And Tramaine Williams just happened to be the one that I had to take on.
And I believe you when you say, because when you say it doesn't matter who was in that opposite corner, because you looked like a man possessed in there that night. You were absolutely brilliant. You were one of the very few people, of course, to win a world title during the pandemic, during that period where there really wasn't much boxing on TV. Boxing fans were tuning in from all over the world to see anyone fight anyone. Do you feel like because of that, Angelo, it perhaps worked even better for you? Because like I said, people were watching from all over the world that night, and you've really exploded onto the scene now. Everyone's talking about you at Super-Bantamweight.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a blessing in disguise for that to happen because, like you said, boxing was very scarce at the time. So, and me being the first event on Showtime after the pandemic or during the pandemic, meant a lot because now everyone was tuning in to watch a Showtime bout.
And even though, like I say, you've exploded onto the scene, I'm not saying that as if you just came out of nowhere, but I mean that when you boxed Williams, you were 19-0. You perhaps didn't have that hype around you that some other guys have when they're 19-0 that have nowhere near as much talent as you do. Do you feel like you're only just now getting the credit that you deserve and 2020 was your real breakout year?
I believe so. 2020 was my breakout year, but I think I still have a lot to prove in 2021. A lot of people and a lot of my fans haven't seen the best of me yet, and that'll come 2021, and I'll make sure to prove it on the 23rd of January.
Which we will get to in just a second. Again, just for those that may be listening to me right now, Angelo has quite an interesting resume because, like with a lot of Mayweather Promotions fighters, they're tough fights, but the matchmaking is kind of strange in a way because if you look at it and you actually analyze it deeply, it's clear to see you're a special fighter. No one ever did what you did to Glenn Porras. Only world champions were ever able to stop Cesar Juarez at the time when you stopped him. They were really impressive ways to beat guys like that. That's just my take. But anyway, you're signed to Mayweather Promotions. I've had a heap of guys on the podcast over the years that were signed with Floyd. Most of them had great stories about Floyd buying them a gift. Has the main man himself ever bought you something as a gift, Angelo?
Not yet. But he did promise me after this fight, if I were to win this fight, that he would give me a nice little bonus, he told me.
Okay. I think it's overdue. Anyway, getting on to that fight, Angelo, Saturday the 23rd at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, live on Showtime. We finally get to see, the fight that was supposed to take place. This time, though, you're defending the title. You are the champion. Stephen Fulton in the opposite corner. If I'm not mistaken, I think once again you're the underdog. Am I right?
Yes, that is correct.
What's your take on that? I think you sound like a guy that enjoys being the underdog.
Yeah, I don't mind it. The pressure's off of me, and at the same time, I'm the world champion, so it just gives me a lot more to prove, and it gives me a fuel to the flame just to let everyone know that I belong as the world champion.
And I want to ask, what are your thoughts on Stephen Fulton as a fighter? There's obviously no doubting he was a good amateur. He's been an impressive professional, but your win over Williams is by far the best win if you combine your wins with his, by far, in my opinion, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I know Stephen had been talking that he had been fighting undefeated fighters and all that, and I proved it that night that I could take on undefeated fighters and beat them as well.
And with the first fight falling through, do you think anyone would have benefited with the extra time, I guess, to rethink possible game plans? You know, people can sometimes get a bit too caught up in this kind of thing, but do you think anyone benefited at all?
Definitely. I think, honestly, both of us have probably benefited from it. He's got to see me fight, so I'm sure that he's studied me a little bit more. But at the same time, I've solidified my game plan for him. Everything that I worked on for the last camp is a lot more natural. Everything's coming a lot more natural. So I think it worked in both of our favors. And the 23rd, there should be no excuses.
And that's an absolutely brilliant answer to my question there. And without looking too far ahead, of course, Angelo, have you got any goals in boxing? I'm sure at one stage it was to win a world title. You've done that. You're in the history books for life. Is there a new goal at this point?
I would say the new goal is probably to win another world title. You know, that was my main goal growing up, was to win world titles, and I already have one. So, you know, I want 2, 3, 4. You know, the sky's the limit for me right now. So, you know, as much as possible, you know, I want to be recognized as a great in the sport.
And when you talk about these titles, do you mean, you know, at the same weight at Super Bantam, or do you see yourself moving up at some point in the future?
Eventually, you know, I want to fight a few more fights at Super Bantamweight and potentially move up to 126, and then later on 130. Okay, I like the plan. And just coming down to the final couple of questions, I'm going to put you on the spot a tiny bit here, Angelo. It's a question that I like to ask everyone that we speak to from overseas. Obviously, I'm from the UK. A lot of our listeners are from the UK. Do you have a favourite UK fighter at all? It can be a guy who retired years and years and years ago. It can be a guy that's still fighting today. The choice is yours. Who comes to mind, my friend? My favourite UK fighter would probably have to be Prince Nassim Ahmed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
What did you like about
him,
man?
Talented, for sure.
He's like the most popular answer. Everyone says him.
Yeah, Prince. No, just his fighting style, the excitement that he brought to the ring, his personality, his flamboyant style, just everything about him. He had knockout power. I think is what, you know, really sealed the deal with him. Is his ability just to knock you out in one punch.
Yeah, we miss him. We definitely miss him over here. But anyway, just wrapping it up, Angelo, if you've got any closing words just to your to anyone that's listening to this, to your supporters perhaps from over here, and also give them your social media platforms. Where can people follow you and join the journey?
Right. No, I just want to thank everybody from the UK, all my fans out there. On January 23rd, it's going to be a great fight. Tune in. And you can follow me on Instagram at Angelo Leo. And I also have a Facebook at Angelo Leo. You can look me up there.
Okay, Angelo Leo on Instagram. You're not on Twitter, are you?
No, not yet.
Okay, hopefully we'll see you on that platform soon. But listen, Leo, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Thank you for your time. Best of luck for January 23rd, and I hope that we can speak again sometime after.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is simply the Lockdown Knockdown. It is time for Eddie's very own segment here. We're gonna go here to I guess the aftermath of that controversial loss to Thomas Adamek in 2012. You were back in the ring. It was, again, it's strange because you were coming off, you know, when you lost to Klitschko, you were back in the ring 11 months later. Then you're out the ring for 16 months when you took on Adamek. Then you're out again for another 14 months. So you were very inactive during this period, and that, of course, is just before you decided to come to the UK. So, yeah, I guess we're going to start from after the Adamek fight, but the main subject is, the Cruiserweight fight that you had back in August of 2013 against South Africa's Thabiso Mchunu. Where we're going to start this week, Eddie?
Well, we're going to go right to the aftermath. I think we talked a little bit about this last week, but I'm going to just go and slightly review. But after the fight with Tomas, I was, right out of the ring, I was like a little depressed because, we put a lot into a lot of stock into that win. We needed that to go well. You know what I mean? We expected to be able to beat him. Obviously, I mean, it was, in our mind, it was a foregone conclusion. It was just we have to stop him in a sense. We was thinking we had to beat him to the point of where he couldn't finish, because we knew how difficult it would be to get a decision. But we figured also that if I did the business and beat him so bad that it's just impossible for them to give him the decision, even if they tried to make it look better, we would still get it. But tearing the bicep tendon and all of those things kind of threw the situation for a loop. So we had to try to just perform as best we could before hearing what we knew was going to go the other way if we didn't get him out of there. So it was a little depressing, even though what's going to happen. It still hurts when it happens. You know what I'm saying? So I was a little down, but quickly, I realized exactly what I had done. You know what I mean? You realize you just beat a quote unquote elite level fighter with one hand, even if the decision didn't go your way. Most people understood, and most people who really wanted to believe the truth saw what happened. So the depression quickly turned into confidence. And once that happened, the only issue then became, I have an injury, a legitimate injury that legitimately is going to take me, what I thought, because what I was initially told, it was going to take 3 months for everything to go through and for it to be healed. So I'm thinking, 3 months, I'll be back at it. So I was hoping, to get right back in, because I had so much confidence after that fight, realizing just how much I was able to do and then how good I felt in there performing, because we had such a great camp and things just fell into place. So I was so happy and so excited. So, but once I realized after the rehab stage had went through, and I was now getting back to where they said, okay, now you can kind of go to the gym and shake out a little bit. And I was like, I thought after 3 months I could actually go back into it, as long as I do certain rehab exercise and stuff like that, should be fine. He's like, oh, no. But my surgeon told me, he said, oh, no, I don't want you to think that you can just go back full-fledged. He said, absolutely not. In fact, you're still not really 100% clear to do any of the things that you did freely before. Like if you wanted to go, actually, I wasn't even allowed to go into the gym yet. Really go into the gym and actually work out. The only thing I could do is just go to my rehabs and do my rehab. That was it. And that was went from third month, once I was cleared to, where I'm, able to use my arm now after everything healed up and all. Then from then till about the fourth or fifth month, I was doing rehab, and I couldn't. I still, even with the rehab and even all of that, I still wasn't allowed to do anything. I couldn't throw punches, I couldn't hit the bag, I couldn't hit any of that stuff. I couldn't shoot the basketball, anything, because it was a fear of it being a little too early, and then of course you can tear the tendon again, and then we'll be back to square one. So I took their advice, and he said another 3 months and we'll check up. And I'm saying, wait, another 3 months and then we're going to check? And he was like, yeah, we got to make sure that it's still, continuing to heal and everything starts to, mend properly, and we don't have to do anything and go back in. So I was like, all right. So as much as it was hard, one of the hardest things for me to do is to stay out of the gym, boxing or otherwise, I did it. And I went back in then, and he said I still wasn't really medically cleared to go back and perform my normal thing. He said we're going to give it another month or two, and then we're going to have our final follow-up, and then, it'll be good to go ahead and get back started. Well, all of these things while this stuff was all going on, we were still trying to figure out when I was going to be ready, because we were trying to get then, and I had met with Kathy and the team there, and we'll let her know that I was interested in going down to Cruiserweight. In fact, we were actually planning on it. And would it be okay if she started to look for opportunities at Cruiser? And, they acted really excited, and they were excited about it. They really thought that it was a good thing for me. They was like, man, you're going to do so well as a Cruiserweight and blah, blah, blah. So I was, excited about the opportunity to go down. And I always wanted to fight fight guys that were my size. So I was there an opportunity now. It's just it's not going to be, I'm going to be so undersized fighting guys that are 2 weight classes above me. You know what I mean? I'm going to actually be fighting guys my size. So now it's, we're matching skill versus skill and, all of those other things. And it's not going to be, that I got to fight, an uphill battle just because of their size. You understand what I'm saying? So, so I did it, but I'm still not necessarily medically clear, but we knew that it was coming to a close where this whole thing was going to be back to normal. So I think it was maybe February or March, and it was a little earlier than it was, originally prescribed that I was going to be back at it. But they had me come in, and I talked to, Dr. Dodson was my surgeon, and he told me, oh, man, everything looks great. Strength level is pretty good. Everything's, loose. It's not, he asked me about any pain. I said, no, everything feels great. And so I was back. You know what I mean? I felt like I was back. I was able to go start training again. And as soon as that happened, they had already been looking for opportunities for me for Cruiser. And there was only a few things that I had, a few stipulations, because we trained in a gym where there's a lot of fighters at that time. We had some really good, talented guys that were around the cruiserweight limit. And I was saying, okay. And funny enough, obviously, us being in the same area, we were kind of messing with the same promoters. And it was J. Russell Peltz was also helping main events out with Kathy Duva, and also his fighters and her fighters. We were all kind of intertwined. And there was a few guys that I said, okay, let's just leave these guys alone and go other places and see if we can find better fighters, because it's pointless. I don't want to fight someone that I'm literally sharing a gym with. You know what I mean? That was one of the things that I had mentioned. Also with Steve Cunningham as well. It was Garrett Wilson and Steve Cunningham. Those are the two guys I like. Let's kind of avoid those. Not that I don't think I could beat those guys, but it's just like, it's a weird conflict. Like, let's just move past them. No sooner than I said that, the first thing they did was say, oh, well, we got somebody, and it's Garrett Wilson. And I'm like, yo, I just told you, that's one of the first things I said when I walked into the office when we started talking about opponents. Like, that was one of the guys that I did not want to be on the radar. I know him really well. I know his manager. We're good. We're really cool. We've sparred together. We've trained together. I get it. Friends fight each other all the time in boxing and all. But in this situation, it's not necessary. He didn't have anything that I needed from him. I get it. They say, oh, well, it's just a fight. It gets you kind of into the rankings more. I'm like, I was already in the top 15 in the rankings just entering the division. Why the hell do I need to fight this kid? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to. And funny enough, the guy, his manager, Rice, called me. He said, hey, he's like, man, they come on, man, don't fight my man. I really don't, because he didn't want me to fight Garrett because he knew what would happen. He knew I would beat Garrett. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to Garrett. I mean, it was not to say that he just didn't want that kind of fight to happen. He just didn't want it. We're in the same gym. We're basically similar, like not necessarily teammates. You know what I mean? But we've worked together so many times. It's almost like, yo, could you go someplace else, do a little bit of legwork, do a little bit of work, and try to find someone else? And at first, I was about to just okay it because I didn't feel like going through the whole conversation. I'm like, you don't want to fight this guy? Is there something wrong with him? And you kind of worried about him? It's like, no, don't try to do that emotional shit with me, is what I was basically going to say. Like, I'm not an emotional guy when it comes to this sport. This sport is a sport. I enjoy it and things like that. But I don't allow, like, you could trash talk me and talk all this crap if you want. The reality of it is we're still going to go in the ring and box. And if I'm better than you on the night, I'm going to win. So it has nothing to do with it. So don't try to convince me to try to fight someone based on emotional reasons. And the thing that I said still stood. And I was like, look, that's just somebody I do not need to fight. You know what I mean? And I kept, and the guy kept calling me. He's like, man, come on, man, please, man. Don't let them let them pit us against each other, man. Don't do that. So in order to deal with the whole thing and just let it go, I just said, look, let's just eliminate that guy out of it and try to find someone else. So in saying that kind of upset them because they had a cheap, and I'm gonna say it just like that. They had a cheap, easy matchup that they could put on and as a filler for the show, and it's a good possible fight, and it's a showcase for me as a cruiserweight, and it kind of upset them and pissed them off a little. that I didn't want to take that particular fight. So instead, because they're angry, and because now I don't know if they want to work with me anymore or whatever, they say, okay, well now, all right, we're going to look for another fight. And I don't know if they already had this kid on deck, but he was relatively unknown here in the States. I had no idea who he was. And they told me I think it was maybe in June, and we were going to fight in August, the beginning of August, right? So they told me at the end of June, like almost the first week of July almost, you're going to fight this kid. Because they were still looking for, opponents and stuff for me or whatever. And they said they found one and they had a little idea about him. They literally sent me, I want to say, one round of him fight. One round. I don't even know if it was a whole round. Might have been like 2 or 3 minutes of a round. I mean, 2 minutes or a minute and a half or something like that of a round of him fighting this tall guy. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm sitting there like, what the hell is this? Like, why? But in my mind as a fighter, I'm like, well, he doesn't really look that special. But in reality, when I was watching him, I was like, yo, he didn't actually look that bad. Southpaw, he seemed like a small guy. So I just out to boxing from the outside. It ain't going to be too hard. The confidence started speaking like before I even knew, especially the confidence I had after I beat Tomas like I did. So I was like, oh, yeah, man, whatever. You could put King Kong in there with me, and I feel like I'll be able to handle him. Well, no, the clip we got, that was all we had, right? Then we went and looked him up and found some other stuff on the internet of him. Some not sparring, but some fights, a couple of fights he had, and it was actually a full fight here, and then there was like another fight, and we watched only a few rounds of it. And I say he looks all right, but it doesn't. He's fighting against. Look who he's fighting against. You know what I mean? Not really giving credit to the guy who he was fighting. It was whether he was a good fighter or not. And just like, I'm going to beat him. Kind of the same thing I did when I was looking at tapes at Vivek. So, I thought about it a little more. We started talking about it then Bashir looked at some video of him. Steve obviously looked at the video and was like, man, I think you might want to look at this dude a little more. He seems like he has a little bit more than what initially, we thought. Because I'm looking at how he's moving and he's doing this, he's doing that. So we watched that little clip again, and they said, let's look up that other stuff again. All right, so we start trying to look up stuff. All of a sudden, his videos were gone. They removed all his videos. Like, I couldn't see anything. Like, I had nothing to base him off of anymore. Like, you watch something real quick, you don't really pay attention, you're not really thinking about it. It's like, you forget kind of what was going on. You ain't really pay attention much. And now that there's no video, we can't even really prepare. We already heard the kid was a little shorter, so that's already something that's a little different than what we're used to facing anyway, being that obviously we're fighting at a lower weight class, but he's also shorter. He's like 5'7" or 8. So it's like, okay, all right, so now I got to figure out how I'm going to get sparring for a guy like that. And funny enough, Garrett, who's about the same exact size as that kid, but Garrett's not he doesn't have the same style at all. He's a come forward, like, big punching guy, but he is short and compact, but he just doesn't have the ability that this kid has, even from the video we watched at the time. So we're like, all right, we'll spar with Garrett. So we spar with Garrett, and it went exactly like it always went. You know what I mean? Pretty much controlled it. I mean, it was good work, but I controlled it. And then it's like, that's really not going to help me for this guy. This guy seems like he's a little faster. He's not, he's pretty decent skill-wise. And he's a southpaw. Garrett's not a southpaw. So we were looking around, and the only person we could find that was a southpaw in somewhat short notice was Amir Mansour, who was a southpaw. But he's a southpaw heavyweight who's my size and, my height and everything. And he's not fast. Well, at least he's not fast in the way I need him to be fast. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like I'm in there working with him and, it's going pretty smoothly for me. And I'm feeling like, well, I feel great. But in my back of my mind, I knew this is not really what I'm going to be facing necessarily. Yes, he was a southpaw, but he wasn't like a fast, really, really skilled southpaw. You know what I mean? So it really wasn't what I needed. So then we had another option, and we were like, okay, well, there's Jesse Hart, but Jesse Hart is 6'3", and not only 6'3", he also boxes from the outside, but he's not a southpaw either. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like that's not really going to work. So I'll just spar with him to sharpen my eyes because he's a lighter weight guy, and we even have video of that online now. And it was fun, it was cool, but it wasn't what I needed. Then, because we couldn't find any other sparring, we had to spar two other heavyweight guys. And one, I can't remember what the one guy we sparred, but I know the other one was Travis Coffin. And Travis could turn southpaw, right? He could fight from the southpaw side. But he's also 6'3", and he's also nowhere near as fast as a guy like Mchunu. So it's completely different than what we were expecting. Now, granted, I felt great. I was doing good in sparring. I was feeling sharp. Even though I was dealing with a lot of craziness in my life at the time, I still felt like, considering what's going on and different things like that. I mean, I had an issue with my car. I had an issue with my home at the time that, caused me at times where I couldn't even go into the actual boxing gym. I had to train at a fitness gym here in the States it's called LA Fitness. I had to train there some days because we couldn't get to the gym because my car was, out of commission. And my house was in a bad way, financially. And all of these things I was dealing with, and also not being able to train properly, but I still felt good. I still was confident. Fast forward through the camp. I mean, everything went, as smooth as it possibly could have, considering the things that happened that I mentioned. We have a meeting, I think, with the main events people in there, and we're talking like, man, we really couldn't get a lot of video on this guy. And he's like, oh, what do you care about that? Just go in there and knock him out and take control of his division is the easy fight. And they said it kind of dismissing this kid, period, in a way that was a little bit alarming, though, because you think like, well, even though they're trying to talk confident to me, like they think I'm just going to go and wipe this kid out, they're still kind of sounding like, it's like don't even talk about it. You know what I mean? Like they just kind of want me just to go and just get it over with type thing. You know what I mean? So I felt like it might have been a little salt in the game, and maybe they were a little upset about, obviously, the fact that I didn't want to fight Garrett. And different people had told me, and I think Bashir, he had conversations with him. I think that he had let me know, too, that they weren't happy about that. So we just had to go in there and just handle business and see where we went from there. And so we're in the dressing room, getting warm up, getting ready to go out. And I felt the nerves, but I didn't feel the nerves quite like I did before. Like I said, in my mind, I'm feeling like I'm fighting a guy my size, so it's not going to be, the same kind of thing, and it's pretty much going to be a comfortable situation for me. And I really felt that way going into the fight. But I go in, first round, just want to see what he has, see if he's, anything special. You know what I mean? He looks, cut up nice. He has the build, the body beautiful type. But that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? To me, that, in fact, I was looking at him as to be a little bit, even though I saw that he was skilled and all, I'm thinking like, those muscles could slow you down, make you tired. So I'm thinking like that. But he was pretty athletic, and I found that out pretty quick. And me not being as sharp as I needed to be, and not having the proper sparring in front of me to prepare me for what I was facing showed pretty early in the fight right away. And it was it was like a struggle to reach him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew that all the pressure was on me. And this is one thing in boxing, when you're fighting somewhat at home, and you're fighting a guy who's visiting, who's coming over, and you're supposed to just dominate. That puts a great deal of pressure on the fighter, on that fighter, which we're supposed to be able to deal with pressure, and there's no doubt about it. And I was expecting to be able to deal with it. But when you have no clue what you're facing, and it's something different than you've faced your entire career, I've only fought maybe one or two southpaws in my entire career. And this is at a different weight class that I wasn't prepared for. Now, I'm not trying to make an excuse of why it didn't work out. What I'm trying to tell you is why it didn't work out, not that there's an excuse for it. Because no matter what the situation is, you got to make the best of whatever situation you have going on. You know what I mean? The house and all that that happened to me, the car being repossessed, all of those things that sucked and I had to deal with are parts of which that's just life. If you're a professional, you got to be able to handle those things in a professional manner and do what your job is. And my job was to fight. And don't get me wrong, I tried. You know what I mean? But I didn't make the necessary adjustments. And through the course of the fight, you can kind of see that in my mind just was not there. It was wavering because I was not only I'm in the fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm paying attention, but things come to your mind when things aren't going well in the ring. And a fighter and any other fighter would be able to attest to this. Like if you're having a rough time and things aren't going your way, in my mind anyway, stuff starts to creep in. Like, damn man, what am I going to do if this don't work out? Or, oh man, the car this and I need money or I need this. And all of these things start playing a real part in your performance because it's on your mind. Things are on your mind. Nothing should be on your mind. You should be completely invested in what you're doing. You should be thinking about that guy in front of you and that guy on nothing else. You shouldn't be thinking about what your wife is doing. You shouldn't be thinking about what this person thinks if your performance doesn't go. None of that. You should only be thinking about what's happening in front of you. You know what I mean? And for you should be there to win. You know what I mean? And that's what's important at that moment. But for whatever reason, my mind was wavering, and obviously there's a whole lot of other reasons why. But and he was there to win. He wasn't there to just survive. He was there to do whatever it took for him to win. And one of the things he did was he literally laid on his back foot. I mean, he sat on that back foot deep. And he literally forced me to bring the action. Because another thing is, too, when you have pressure on you to be dominant, well, then you try to go be dominant. And with a person that fights with a style that he fights, who's a sharp boxer, who's sharper than you that night, it forces you out of your own element, something that you're not used to doing, and being overly aggressive. Even though I can be aggressive and walk forward with my hands up and all, his style was made for a guy who was going to do something like that. Like I could try to walk him down, but if I was going to walk him down, what I should have done is just made it a roughhouse affair, just like roughed him up, beat him down. Now I realized, after it happened, after the fact, years after, that the best way would have been to just be busier, bump him, use my strength because I was stronger than him, whether I looked it or not, and just put him in a position where he couldn't find his range, and just make him do things that he wasn't prepared to do. But of course, I'm supposed to dominate, and I'm supposed to make him look like an amateur when it was just the exact opposite almost. So, I'm dealing with that, and going back to the corner, and Bashir's like, yo, man, got to find a way you got to rough this guy up. If you can't touch from the outside like you want to, go in there and rough the guy up, get up in his chest, do what you got to do. And I did something later in the fight where I kind of bumped him off and then threw like a left hook. And I could see it bothered him bad. You know what I mean? Because obviously my power at the Cruiserweight division is, a lot bigger of a puncher in the Cruiserweight than I would be as a heavy. So I could tell by his eyes that it bothered him. And Bashir is like, I saw what you did. You got to do stuff like that. He was in my ear pushing me to do more. But in my mind, I'm hearing him, but I'm just thinking of this other stuff, man, all this other unimportant stuff at that moment. Like there's nothing more important than what's going on right there. That's my livelihood. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what I'm supposed to be taking care of at the moment. That's what's going to get me more money. And it's just, and I don't know why, but my mind just wasn't into it. Not like it should have been. Like I said, it's no excuse because as a professional, you got to do what you got to do. But my mind wasn't where it needed to be, and he beat me fair and square. I don't know by how much, and he didn't dominate me. You know what I mean? He just won more rounds. He did what was necessary to win the fight. You know what I mean? He didn't look as overly impressive doing it. It was impressive because of who he did it to, not because of what he did. Because of what he did, if I would have been in the right mindset, I could have done what I needed to do to win that fight, and that's just make, you know what I'm saying, and just make it ugly and start bombing him. but I didn't do it. I tried to stick with what I was doing in the beginning. It wasn't working, and what happens is, as a fighter, when things aren't going your way, is another thing that can happen is you get stuck. Almost throwing the same combination at the person, and you know it's not going to work, but your mind just gets stuck on something, and you just can't figure out what it is that you need to do to change it. And it happens. You know what I mean? It really does happen. I've seen it happen to other fighters, and I'm like, damn, he's probably in the same position I was in a couple of different fights I've had. And I've had fights where I've done that, and I've won, but this wasn't one of them. And, I paid for it. What I regret about the ordeal too was the fact that not so much that I didn't take the fight with Garrett, but because I felt like I stood up for what I believed in, and that's what you should do, no matter what the situation is. But I regret taking this fight because I wasn't in the right state of mind. None of the stuff that happened in preparation for this particular fight was what we needed. We didn't have the proper at all sparring for this fight. The car, I lost my car at that time, so I couldn't get to the gym on certain days. Whenever Bashir couldn't make it down, and he was supposed to come down more on sparring days, and every other day or something like that he would come down because he was coming from Newark, and I'm in South Jersey. But when days he couldn't come, we couldn't go, so I would have to literally get a cab and go to LA Fitness to train. And this is the kind of thing that was happening. There was times that we couldn't spar because we couldn't get to the gym, and other times we would just have to do pads with Bashir at LA Fitness while I'm getting prepared for a top level guy, sharp guy in a different weight class. And like I said, once again, I'm not going to say that I'm trying to make an excuse for the performance. I'm just giving reasons of why these things happen. And for other fighters who have been in this situation, they can attest. Like, I didn't say any of these things at the end of that fight. I didn't want to take any of his shine away because I felt like no matter what the situation was, he beat me. And if I'm like that, I should have beat him anyway. You know what I mean? And I guess I wasn't, especially not at that moment. So he won. I wanted to give credit to, where it was due, and he won. He bested me that night. And right after that, I felt so horrible. That was probably worse than Klitschko. I felt worse than Klitschko. I was thinking about like 100% retirement. Like, I was like, man, I ain't doing this no more. I ain't putting myself through this crap. You know what I mean? Like, with all of the things that I've done and all of the things that I've been through in this game, I've never, ever been that guy that people say, man, I wish I could be in his position as a fighter. Like, I don't think I've ever been that guy. I've always been the B side, with the exception of one or two fights as a elite level fighter. I've always been the B side. Very rarely have I ever gone in the guy who was supposed to win as an elite level guy, as a guy, when I got to when I was fighting the Povetkin's of the world, stuff like that. Like, I was always the B side. So I was never in an enviable position for any other fighter. It was that I had to always go on the road and do the impossible to win all the time. I think the only fight when I was with Dan Goosen that I was the A side for was, there was a few. It was three. One of them he wasn't even a part of. It was on a Blue Horizon card. But the other two was there was three. It was
the Rossi rematch was one.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was only because I had beat him before.
Yeah.
Because best believe if he was a new guy, or like even what like he was the years past when we fought, I would have been the B side then. I was the B side when I fought him, and I had 27 fights when I fought him the first time. Like, are you kidding me? But this is just how it is. They you know what me and Tony Thompson always said, is like, they don't like us, man. They hate us. You know what I mean? So we got to go out there and we got to beat their people. We got to beat their guys because they don't like us. They don't like us. We used to say that to each other all the time. You know what I mean? Because we know that we're not the poster boys. Like, we're not the guys that they want to put out there because I'm too small. Pause. I'm not the big 6'6" body beautiful guy. And Tony Thompson's the big guy, but he's not the body beautiful guy. So they don't really, and he's not a big puncher, and our styles don't really mesh for what they want to put out there. We don't look the part enough. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it turned out to be. Not so much that I don't look the part enough like I'm an ugly guy or anything. I'm not trying to say that, even though I am. But what I am trying to say is that I don't look the part in a way I'm not menacing. Like even Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was 5'10", but Mike Tyson had a menacing look to him. Shredded up, strong looking, big punching guy. You understand what I'm saying? Regardless of how small he was a menacing looking guy. I'm a boxer. It always smiles and always happy and never talks crap at the weigh-ins and stuff in the press conference. How they gonna sell me? The only way I can get on top is if I win. I'm like John Ruiz. You know what I'm saying? I'm the John Ruiz. I'm a different kind of John Ruiz. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I'm quiet overly. Like, I'll talk, I speak well and all that, but I can't. I don't sell it. I don't sell the fights enough for them. So they just didn't want me to. They just want me out of there. Trust me, they want to be out of there. I could tell you. I don't know if I said this on there, but Jim Lampley basically said I'm an unexciting fighter to watch. You know, of all the heavyweights in at the time, I was the most unexciting one. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So nobody really wanted to see me. So no matter how good I was, and I was as talented as anybody in the division at any point around that time, and you know, they just push you to the back burner. And it's unfortunate, but that's what happened.
And it's crazy how, you know, this is 3 fights removed from the Klitschko fight for the world titles, you know, biggest payday by a mile. And, you know, you're in a position where you couldn't really get yourself to the gym and no one was able to take you, which is extremely sad.
Yep.
Let me ask you as well, Eddie. Obviously, you had 2 fights with main events, you know, both were losses to Adamek and to Mchunu on paper anyway. Do you feel like they even, I mean, it's obviously not their fault that you lost these fights, you know, do you feel like they did a bad job with you, or did they do an okay job, or do you put anyone at fault for the way they promoted you for those 2 fights?
They didn't. Honestly, I felt like they promoted me the same as any other promoter would have. And I'm not trying to say that that's an excuse for how they did it, because you could make a guy like me more marketable. I'm good at talking. You know what I mean? I can talk, I guess. You know what I mean? I could sell things. I can, if you need me to do something in particular, I can do it. You know what I mean? I'm not the hardest person to look at. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's different ways of selling things. You know what I mean? And I don't think I don't think they wanted to do it. I don't think they were looking for a ready-made situation that was going to bring eyes to bring money to their table. That's all they were interested in. They weren't looking at, oh, we're getting Eddie Chambers as a project to turn him into something where they had to do the work. No, they didn't want to do no work. And I'm not hating on any promoter. I mean, I'm not trying to say that these guys don't do their job. There's a lot of them that do. But the majority of them that I've dealt with, they don't want to have to do a lot of legwork. They don't want to have to do a lot of selling. They want you to sell yourself. They have the publicists and all that, and the publicists, they'll work the hell out of those publicists to do certain things. But the reality of it is, they don't want a project, especially if I already have a good name. I had a pretty good name already. So they're expecting my name to carry weight, but what they didn't realize is that you're taking a guy who they don't want to watch. He's great, but you don't want to watch him. You understand what I'm saying? It's like Floyd Mayweather without the undefeated record and without the money mantra and all that put. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, me as a fighter, great. People will be like, give me him. Like if you could put me in a lineup with a group of other fighters that are all good fighters, I'm going to probably be the most talented one of them all. And I'm not saying that because I'm like, oh, I'm the best in the world. I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but the reality of it is that is true. Problem then becomes, though, is how do you sell that? Because if I'm not knocking everybody out, they don't care about that. And if I'm not like got a Kool-Aid smile or nothing like that, then they don't want to hear that either. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter even how you look. It's just like You gotta have something that can sell. Chris Arreola, they were selling him, and I'm on the same thing with him. You mean I can talk, and I ain't disrespecting Chris and saying he can't talk, but I can talk better than that. I can sell some shit if you need me to sell it. But the reality of it is, he cursed on TV. He's Mexican American. He got people behind him. I didn't. I'm an African American athlete that's talented and good and athletic. That is not special here. That is as normal as walking outside and breathing. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. As normal as anything. You know what I mean? So it's not something you can sell. It's not like, oh, if I was a 6'6" white kid that was gifted athletically and knocked everybody out, even like Wilder. But a big white kid, oh my God, I would have been on every cereal box on earth. You know what I mean? I would have been all over the place, but that's just not the case. And I'm not trying to make this a racial thing. I'm just trying to tell you that it's too common what I am. You understand what I'm saying? And it's not going to sell. So when they got me here, it was like, you have to be the greatest of all time in order to become anything. And that's real, Joe. That is 100% real. If I'm not Muhammad Ali right now reincarnated, then I'm not going to be I'm not going to be anything. If I didn't take his life force to put that into me and me become Ali, then I'm not going to be elite. People ain't going to remember me. And I guess I just didn't have it. So even though I'm one of the most talented out there, he's just common. You know, sweep him to the put him in the back of the bus or whatever. Keep people where people don't see him. Don't put him in for God's sakes, do not put your prospect in there with that kid. Don't put him in there with him because he'll expose them and then he'll take their opportunity. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was. But it's unfortunate, but this is the game.
Yeah, and there we go. That is the lockdown knockdown this week. Obviously, it's another tough one to look back on. Eddie's gone into the reasons behind this. A lot of unfortunate things, both financially, promotionally, and in the actual fight itself, obviously. So next time it's positive stuff, Eddie. Next time it's positive stuff.
Yes.
You decide
Thank God.
you decide to get on a plane and come over to the UK, which we'll get onto next week. And
I like how you said I decided to get on the plane. Like that's a big deal too. You know that.
And you came over here obviously and scored the first knockout for I think it was almost 6 years you hadn't scored a knockout for. And then you were over here stopping I think, what was it, all but one opponent in the end over here? Yeah,
and I should have stopped him too.
Yeah,
but
we'll get on.
And I'm not gonna tell you the excuses for that. But it's not excuses, it's reasons. Okay.
Okay. Well, there we have it. Like I say, that is the fight gone over there. Thabiso Mchunu back in August 2013. Next time we'll be discussing when Eddie, like I say, came over to the UK, linked up with the Furies, lived with them as well. I'm sure there's a couple stories in there. Peter Fury, who you got to know during the training camp in France when Tyson Fury had you over preparing for David Haye, the fight that never happened. And it was,
that was in Belgium. Actually.
In Belgium,
that one,
yes.
that was in Belgium. Yeah.
Yeah, my apologies. So in Belgium, and then obviously
that's okay.
You're you stayed in contact with the guys, ended up over here, and got some momentum behind you again. So that is exciting. I'm looking forward to that. And that will be next time. So I guess that'll probably be next week. If it's not next week, it'll be very soon for sure. But yeah, that is everything. That is the lockdown knockdown for this week. We'll be back with that and the much happier times perhaps next week or the week after. We'll get onto it soon. That's everything though. That's all the talking. We did the news part, which we kicked off with. Then we brought in the preview part, which was just one fight, of course. Then we spoke to Angelo Leo, the first guest on this week's podcast. In part 2, we did the Lockdown Knockdown, which you've just heard. It's now time to welcome our second and final guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new British light heavyweight champion. It is, of course, Mr. Craig Richards. Craig, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thank you.
Always.
Thank you for welcoming me back.
Always a pleasure.
On the show.
Always a pleasure having you on, Craig. So again, we last spoke back in September. At the time, you were looking forward to November 14th. The fight got pushed back, of course, to December 18th. Just sum it up for me, man. What a brilliant win. And, everyone knows about you now domestically if they didn't already know. Boy, oh boy.
Come on, they have to know. I'm joking. It was a good win. It's a good win. Puts me in that mix now. It was a long time coming. It's just glad that I finally got the win and crowned the British champion to close one chapter of my career.
And again, I want to ask, you've had an up and down 12 months. I know that you were ill at one point. The pullouts of this fight in particular, I mean, boy, the amount of times it got pushed back, pushed forward, whatever. You've finally got it over the line and a brilliant, emphatic win. Has it sunk in yet? You're British champion.
It's getting there. Sometimes I'm up and down. Sometimes I'm like, I'm actually the British champion, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, what's next? It's there. I'm just happy. I'm pleased.
And again, we saw that excellent picture that Peter Sims, who I think is a blinding photographer as well, if he fancies taking that up after boxing training. You're laying in bed. You've got the strap and that pillow as well, the spider pillow. I don't care what you say. I'm still convinced that it was staged, man. It looked too good.
Never. I know. Do you know what? My natural look is just, I woke up like this. Look, think about it. A couple hours after, I just thought, in the morning, I only had 2 hours sleep. He walked in, caught me, took the picture, woken up. It was just one of them moments.
You're a cute sleeper, Craig.
I get told this all the time. I can't help that.
Oh, man.
If I didn't even have a scratch on me, on my face, a couple hours after I fought for the British title.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It almost looked like you was asleep the night before and they photoshopped the belt in.
Which what we said when we got back. We said you wouldn't believe that you just fought for a British title. You said you ain't got a scratch on you. You're not one bit tired. You're just there buzzing around with not even a mark on you. I was like, yeah, it's true. I should have had more of a stakeout, really.
There we go. And, I want to ask as well, do you feel somewhat, I want to say, proven now at British level? Obviously, there was that hiccup with Buglioni. If people don't know the behind-the-scenes stuff surrounding that, then, there's people that don't know. They look at that and go, oh, he lost at British title level. Buglioni weren't really, he didn't really surpass British title level. And now you've gone out there, smashed the British champion, and proved yourself. You're at least British level and potentially, much more than that, the way you dealt with this guy.
Yeah, of course, because if that's like the guy at the lead in the pack at the time and I didn't go through much trouble and got the job done and got the KO, it shows what level I'm at, really. But just sometimes about proving to yourself and keep pushing your further goals. People in the boxing can be fickle. 1 minute they say you're the next big thing, next thing they say you're just a hype job. So it's not a point to prove to them. It's more for myself and my career and keep progressing and moving forward. And
also, Shakan really came out of his shell in the build-up. He had some excellent trash-talking skills, whether it was on Zoom or whatever it was that you were speaking on when you did that e-press conference thing. But he was, it was quite entertaining. I've never really seen him, act like that. He tried to sell the fight. Did it make the win even more sweeter, man, the way you put him away?
100%. I started thinking he believes what he says. I'm slow, I'm this, I'm that. I'll struggle. I'm not fast enough. If I want to box him, he'll outbox me. If we want to stand and trade, I'll come worst off. And we showed. I outboxed him. And when we trade, I definitely didn't come worst off. So it was nice to just prove to him that everything he said was just... And everything his team obviously probably told him was all just a lie to boost his confidence. And I thought that's what happens sometimes. Fighters get told things so they can go in there confident and they start believing it and believe in their team. And I just like to just shut the whole system down sometimes.
And you had some comebacks for him as well. I think you didn't you say that he probably goes to Nando's and has no spice on his chicken.
Ah!
Is that what you said?
I said to him, I think we had a few Nando's bits, but I'm sure I told him I'll even take him out to Nando's, get him a spicy chicken after I win and take the belt. But it was all fun and games. I did say to him that I'll hit him, I'll hurt him, his legs will go Bambi, then I'll knock him out and so forth. It was all part fun and games. Although everything I did say it did happen, but it was more just I just enjoy these moments. It's entertainment business. But when we start switching off from Thursday night towards Friday night comes, the fun and games end, and it's a serious time.
And did he surprise you?
Well, in that case, it was.
Sorry, Craig. What'd you say?
Sorry, go on. Yeah, in that case, it was the Thursday night. We had to switch off because obviously we fought on the Friday.
Yeah. And did he surprise you in any way? Because like I say, I didn't think he'd get up from that shot in the fourth. And he came back, to his credit, in the 2 rounds after that, I felt. I
wouldn't say he surprised me. I knew he was going to come. I knew he was going to fight hard. He was unbeaten. He believed in himself. He really didn't want to lose to me. The London City, Birmingham City was watching, and then the general public was watching. It was a big fight, so I knew he'd have the will to win. So I knew until you put him out, he'll keep coming. And I knew he's trained very hard, he's fit, so his recovery will probably be a little bit better. And I knew that I'd probably take him out later rather than early. So I wasn't too surprised when he got up. I was surprised that he took the shots very well after that and pulled himself together quite well the next round. But that's because I took my foot off the gas. I didn't really want to go and burn myself out. I just went back to my boxing and waited and bided my time.
And see, when, you look back at that Buglioni fight to now, it's been a long, long time. Do you think that you've matured in a way where perhaps if this would have happened, this exact thing would have happened, you'd have boxed Shakan back then, you'd have hurt him, you'd have had him down in the 4th. Do you think you perhaps would have gone gung-ho in the 5th and 6th and not been patient enough? Do you think perhaps the way you've come on has, you've matured as a fighter, and that is why you didn't go for the kill like many people thought you'd do?
Yeah, I've matured a lot in the fighter. I've learned not to get my emotion. I learned a lot from grudge matches, from that Sterling making errors in that fight. I learned from that fight specifically more in the grudge match. Jake Ball, I was kind of having my head together with me in that grudge match. The Buglioni fight, I feel like there was just a lot of doubts in my head in the fight, knowing that I only had it on 5 days' notice. I don't have a training camp for it, so I didn't even get to do the 12-round sparring leading up to it. Also known as the super middleweight, and plus at the time never doing a 12-rounder, being my first 12-rounder. There was a lot of factors in my mind in that fight. But off the back of that fight, knowing I could do 12 rounds without a training camp at super middleweight with the British champion at the time, who was, I think, 23 fights, 15 knockouts, and I was only 10-0 at the time, kind of gave me a lot of reassurance to show that I can mix at that level without any training camp or anything. Coming up short in that fight kind of let me know that I was built to do this, basically. I was ready for it. Just had the minerals without even preparing.
And obviously you were mandatory for the British. To confirm, there is no rematch clause. Do you? I mean, I'm not saying you should entertain any kind of a rematch, but you don't think you're going to be boxing him again? I wouldn't have thought.
Nah, what's the point? Do you know, sometimes that if you have a close fight, people think that you lost and you got a decision that you shouldn't have got, or you scraped through tooth and nail, but people are like, nah, I'm not sure. Then it's kind of like you might want to rectify it in your head. You might entertain it, but I feel like when you're winning a fight quite comfortably and then you get the KO, you drop him and get a KO, I think it was convincing enough to move on.
Yeah, I'd agree, to be honest. I'm just throwing it out there for those Birmingham listeners. If there's anyone that does think it was somewhat, I don't know, just unlucky, I don't know. We shall see. Anyway, moving on, Craig. Where do you kind of see your, I want to say, not too distant plans at? Because, like I say, a few years ago, I remember you saying you can get caught up in that, caught up kind of around that southern area level if you're defending the belt too long. I remember when you picked it up as well, your idea straight away was to vacate it before the night was even out. You got the British now. Do you see yourself staying at this kind of level? Do you want to win it outright? Does that mean anything to you?
Kind of depends on the opportunities what arise at this time. It's all got to be progress for me. It's got to have fights what makes sense for me personally. I'd like to keep pushing forward in my career. I feel I've done things the right way, but I've been at domestic level for a while. I was saying, if you look at the CV, I've beat a guy 14-0, top 10, a top 10, 12-0, a top 10, 10-0, a top 10, 12-1. So I've had all this domestic experience at this British level. So it's safe to say if I wanted to now, I can push on. So if there isn't something domestically what's worth me sticking around for, and I happen to just have 3 domestic fights, what made sense, then so be it. But if not, I'm happy to push on. So it just kind of depends on what my team thinks and the opportunities that arise for me from now.
And just before we wrap it up, Craig, if you've got any closing words just to our listeners, like I told them all before the fight, I expected that fight to go the way it went. I'm not sure if anyone listened, if anyone made any money on my predictions, but I won a few pounds in there just before Christmas. What's your message to the listeners?
Thank you for keep supporting, keep tuning in. This journey, as you see, I'm always in good fights, always in exciting fights, and I'm grateful for your support. So I'm going to keep delivering. Follow me on my social platforms for updates and find out what's really going on. So yeah, thank you again. We working.
Listen, Craig, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Thanks for your time. Congrats once again on a brilliant win, and I hope that I can see you at some point in 2021. Let's hope.
Yeah, definitely. We've got to make it happen. 1,000,000%.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 275 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our 2 guests on this week's podcast, the reigning WBO Super-Bantamweight World Champion Angelo Leo and the reigning British Light Heavyweight Champion Craig Richards. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners, of course. Thank you for sticking with us once again. There has been 1 or 2 pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Josh Warrington has decided to vacate his world title. It's a bit baffling, really, because he was close to being forced into a fight with Kid Galahad, but like we said, he's still going to go ahead and fight Maurizio Lara, which is a pointless non-title fight. I can't really understand what his plans are going forward. They're talking about a potential big fight with Gary Russell Jr. I don't think that's a massive money fight. They're talking about a Kanzu fight, but nothing at the minute is in concrete. It seems like a premature thing to vacate the belt. It's looking like he's perhaps stuck in a rematch, dare I say it, with Kid Galahad. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with him. He's still fighting that unknown guy, Maurizio Lara, who hasn't had a 12-round fight in his life. Kid Galahad will now be fighting for the vacant world title against the next in line. Currently, the IBF don't actually have a number 2 spot. No one's in that number 2 spot. It's not rated. So if you look down the list, the next man available is in the number 3 spot. That man would be Jazza Dickens. Certainly, that's a fight I'd welcome. I wouldn't mind seeing that rematch. They boxed in 2013. Jazza Dickens has improved so much since then. And with Kid Galahad, it's just been a bit frustrating. In other news, MTK Global have announced 3 fight dates, all set in Dubai, for what they're calling the Dubai Fight Series. It all kicks off on February the 6th when Lee McGregor challenges Kareem Guerfi for the European title and Sean McComb boxes Gavin Gwynn for the Commonwealth title. On March the 12th, Tyrone McKenna headlines that card. He'll be taking on the undefeated 24-0 Zankosh Turarov as the main event on that card. And then on April the 3rd, 4-weight world champion Donny Nietes returns to the ring to headline that show, but there's no announcement on his opponent just yet. The final piece of news as well is that Canelo is going to be taking on Avni Yildirim, his mandatory. People know Yildirim, of course, because he was a former victim of Chris Eubank Jr. That's going to be taking place on February 27th in Miami, Florida. But that's about everything from myself. Remember, if you get any time, to please leave us a review on iTunes. It's very much appreciated. On next week's show as well, we'll definitely have Jamel Herring on, that is for sure. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.